What's up, gamers? I'm your host Cobra, and this is Freeroll Friday. Today, we're taking a look at why Minecraft banned NFTs. We break down when to hit the secondary market for gaming projects, and I'll talk about why I moved my DeFi Kingdoms heroes instead of selling them. Quick programming note. I always include timestamps below so you can skip straight to the section of Freeroll Friday that you are most excited about. I also want you to double check that you've hit that subscribe button for us. It goes a long way towards supporting the channel. And as always, we start out with our Market Watch update. This week, other side floors are down across the board. In fact, you're going to see a lot of red in today's update. The playtest was a huge success. See the linked video I have below on my breakdown for the first trip playtest. But as is typical, once a major event passes and people get a little bit bored, the prices tend to fall a little bit, and that's exactly what we're seeing. The overall floor is down to 2.5. The biogenetic swamp or Coda land floor is down to 6.25, and the Coda floor itself is at 19.7. Illuvium Land is starting to slide down as well. All three tiers that we track are down double digits. Tier 1 is dropped to 0.41, and that's closer to where it was when we very first started tracking. It's a little bit of up and down. The tier 2s and tier 3s have taken bigger hits at down 17% each at 1.19, and 3.99 is the first time that we've seen tier 3 below 4 outside of the mint, of course. Our other Immutable X project, Guild of Guardians, had been on a rise recently, but they are also wrapping up their playtest demo, and prices are starting to slide down again as well. I suspect some of this is due to the fact that ETH has actually been pumping, so if we translated these into USD values, they likely would be relatively flat, and that's the case across the board. But regardless, negative is negative, and we track in ETH. The rare floor is at 0.005, very reasonable and only down a little bit. The epics at 0.019, legendaries at 0.173, and a legendary pet is at the very juicy price of 0.54. Riot Racers continues to be quiet as a project, but we've seen some mixed results on their floor prices this week. The Artemis price for cars has gone down a little bit to 0.024. The Apollo collection is up a little bit, 15% to 0.045, and the Genesis floor is at 0.077. Our Genesis drivers come in at 0.019. Frontier has seen some of the biggest slides of any of the projects that we are tracking. They are down across the board. The Stellar Key has dropped to 4.2 ETH, which is down a whopping 25% from last week. The Data Key itself is at 0.38, which is only down about 3%. The Zero continues to slide like we predicted it would at 0.059, and the Lucky Watcher is back to 0.4. And finally, Parallel is starting to slide back down. The caching or staking event that happened a week ago is still open, but the excitement from that is gone, and we are seeing prices slide back to where they were. The overall floor is at 0.0034, the SE floor at 0.007, which is quite juicy considering you can actually get something from those cards now. And the Prime Key itself is down to 14 ETH. That's on the lower end of the range that we typically see it trading at this summer. Our project update this week actually comes from the Web 2 space because we are talking about Minecraft. Minecraft put out an update clarifying their position on NFTs within their platform, and it is bad news for Web3 gamers. They are outright banning NFTs being used in Minecraft at all, at least for today. Now, this is a huge blow for a handful of projects like NFT Worlds that are built directly on top of Minecraft. They had previously been told that they had permission to do this and were following a whole bunch of extra guidelines, I believe. But as of today, those projects are in a lot of trouble, it appears. Now, if you're holding anything from one of these projects, wait till the end to decide what you want to do, because I wouldn't say that this is the end of the road just yet. But some of the things that they called out in their blog post are that NFTs, by their nature, are scarce, and that is what drives some of the price speculation. However, Minecraft wants their game to be open and accessible. One of the key guidelines in their user agreement is that everything within the server needs to be accessible to all players, and that's not exactly doable with NFTs. So for now, those two things don't jive together. They also are nervous that these third-party projects are extracting a lot of money from their customers without very much price protection, because as we have seen, the price of an NFT can skyrocket, but it can also nosedive in no time at all, and that's the last thing that they want to see happening to their users, since it's something that they can't control or really impact at all. In fact, the price speculation itself was specifically called out as something that they are concerned about, but also the reality is, with a third party, if the third party were to run off and stop producing, then the value of those NFTs would go to zero pretty quickly, and that's something they really don't have a lot of control over today. Now, that said, I wouldn't say they completely shut the door forever. They called out at the top of the post that this is their policy for now, but that they are also actively updating the agreement. Now, what does this mean? It means that for the foreseeable future, at least the rest of this year, I would predict, if not longer, we're not going to see NFT projects building on Minecraft anymore. Beyond that, though, I do expect things will eventually change. At the end of the day, all of these game companies know that this is technology that is coming, and in the case of Minecraft, there's just too good a use case to ignore it forever. Eventually, I expect they'll establish some sort of partnership program for projects to apply to get into, where they're making a commitment, potentially a financial commitment that benefits Minecraft game itself, but that will give them a lot more control and the ability to vet some of these projects so that they feel much more comfortable introducing blockchain technologies into their platform. They may also have plans to do some of this themselves and don't want to allow these third parties to get a big head start. That is pure speculation, of course, but seems likely at least to be a thought in their minds. Either way, if I were holding any of these NFTs today, for sure I would be getting rid of them. The timeline here, I think, is too long for holding to make sense. However, there are plenty of investors out there that are willing to hold for longer, and if so, I would watch the prices of any of these projects that you're interested in, try to find a bottom. And to be clear, I don't think NFT Worlds is bottoming out today, but potentially could in the near future. If you want to speculate and take a heavy gamble, then picking some of those up once they hit rock bottom could be a fruitful play, because that's a project I would expect to bounce back quickly if they're able to get around this ban. I also read in another project server, one that is also built upon Minecraft, that they have made exceptions to this type of rule in the past, and that particular project thinks that they might be able to get an exception for themselves. If that is the case, I would expect NFT Worlds and some of the other projects to rebound rather quickly. That is not a recommendation that I am making, but if you're holding and want some hopium, there it is for you. Today's trading tip is how and when to enter the secondary market specifically for a gaming project. The way that I evaluate this question myself when deciding to make a purchase or not is to run through a whole list of questions. And I need a satisfying answer to all of them before I'm willing to spend my hard-earned ETH. Those questions are: when was the mint? How has sales volume been since the mint, and is it continuing? Are there more of these NFTs coming on a primary sale in the future, especially the near future? Does the NFT itself carry any additional NFT utility that I really want or need? And is there a game yet? And if not, how much longer until that game is coming? All of these are really important questions to ask yourself because any of them could lead to the prices of these NFTs sliding further. For example, if the project just minted out hours ago, then excitement is still very high and prices are likely rising at that point. But either way, that's when buyers are most excited, and therefore it's almost never the best time to buy. The sales volume is important because we don't want to buy something that's totally dead. If it has a floor price of say 0.5, but nobody buys at that price, well then, is it really worth 0.5? Probably not. The question of are there more coming is hugely important. We saw with Parallel that the very first pack drop was crazy lucrative. Every single person that bought a pack and sold their NFTs within the first month or so made quite a bit of ETH. But the second pack drop was quite a bit less profitable, and by the third pack drop, they were definitely a negative expected value proposition. The fourth pack drop was close to worthless from a flipping standpoint at very least, and that's because the supply of cards continued to grow by quite a bit. In the case of Parallel, they also added a bunch of lower tier cards to fill out those packs, which didn't help any either. But either way, more supply tends to mean lower prices. If the NFT carries some utility, especially utility that could be used to turn additional profit, like an airdrop, access to an additional mint, or access to the game tokens, then that needs to be factored in as well. And when that is the case, it gets quite a bit more complicated because the speculation you need to do is on multiple fronts. But when that is the case, there's a much stronger incentive to buy and hold. And then finally, is the game out yet? Now, this is almost never the case when NFTs are being sold, but we're starting to see that shift a little bit at least. More importantly is how much time are they projecting between the sale and when they'll have some version of the game to launch. If there is a lot of time left, then likely we have not seen the floor price hit its basement just yet. And finally, this week we have a transaction breakdown. This one is a little bit different than what we've covered in the past. Instead of analyzing a buy or sell that we made, we're taking a look at a change we've made, or a transaction, if you will. What I mean by that is DeFi Kingdoms is currently a game that operates on two different blockchains. It started out and was founded on Harmony, which is where we've spent the most of our time to date. They recently expanded to Avalanche. That game runs on the DFK chain, and they have been developing that side quite a bit in order to get it caught up to the Harmony version. They recently added Profession Quest Level 0 over in Crystal Vale for fishing and foraging. And at the same time, they opened up the ability to bridge your characters from Harmony to AVAX or DFK chain. This was a big update, but also not necessarily the most exciting one. It's not a new game mode. It's the same thing, just in a different area. Yes, the fish you're catching or the stuff you're finding in the forest is a little bit different, but at the end of the day, it's still send your characters out, gather some resources. So why did we make this change? The project as a whole has been struggling quite a bit this year. The prices of their various tokens are way down, nowhere near what they were when we were very excited about the project towards the end of last year, and that is a factor for sure. Development on the Harmony side seems to have really slowed down to a crawl. One of the things that we loved about this project early on was that they were cranking out updates pretty much every week, and a lot of them fairly significant updates that really got the player base excited and engaged. That has pretty much come to a stop, and the other factor is we have been doing profession quests in Serendale, which is the Harmony side, for many months now, all of this year, and it started back in December of last year, depending on which quest we are talking about. So something like 7 or 8 months of doing that, and despite the fact that they do have additional quests out there, my heroes haven't leveled up enough to be able to complete those with any sort of regularity. That's pretty boring. Now, that said, this also comes down to some simplicity. At the end of the day, DFK is a struggling project and game. It's not looking like it's going to turn around anytime too soon, but we still have a lot of locked jewel and a lot of locked crystal that we won't be able to sell or cash out for a while. So I just want to make things as easy as possible on myself to stay at least a little bit engaged, and with the better experience on the DFK chain, I am shifting all of my heroes over there as I can, and will just run the basic quests probably once a day, and continue to monitor the prices and hope for some improvement in the future. And that wraps up this week's Freeroll Friday. I hope you found this informative and entertaining, and if you did, consider giving us a follow on Twitter. That's where I love to engage with the Play and Earn community and answer your questions. Also, if you haven't already, make sure you hit that subscribe button below so that you don't miss any future versions of Freeroll Friday.